Hi, I'm Jess, aka the Emo Chronicles.
And I'm Trevor.
And you're listening to Thanks for the Memories,
where we talk about emo and scene memories.
Even if they weren't so great.
A podcast called Thanks for the Memories, where we talk about emo and scene stuff. Yeah!
Like I said, I'm the Emo Chronicles. I'm from TikTok. I talk about emo history.
Yeah, I met Jess through TikTok. I used to be a real-life emo kid, and now I pretend to be Discount Gerard Way on TikTok, cosplaying his various looks.
I think a lot of people think you are Gerard Way.
In non-English speaking countries, that does happen sometimes. Yeah, it's a totally normal and mentally healthy hobby. I always admired him. You know, I'm sure you felt this too, like as a teenager listening to all that emo music, it was just a great way to express yourself and, you know, deal with those tough teenage emotions everyone goes through. Yeah, so I think when I was a teenager, I would have told you, you know, like My Chemical Romance, black clothes, eyeliner, black hair. But I remember it was maybe the 2010s, and there was this emo band in Ottawa, and I was talking to them, and they were like, yeah, emo's just emotional. Like, it's so much bigger than just the look. It's any kind of music that allows you to freely, openly express your emotions. And so that's how I think about it more now. And
it's like a fashion sense while it's also like a music genre, and it's definitely all centered around emotional. Emo gatekeeping.
I don't think we're allowed to say that. Emo gatekeeping? What is that, Jess?
Emo gatekeeping.
Do I need to send someone to your basement? That sounds really bad.
So it's when you bring somebody to a gate and you keep them there. So let's be honest, because like I'm a big emo gatekeeper. Like, I'm just gonna say it, and the reason I do this is because emo back in the day was really like an inclusive thing, because there was a lot more labels. Nowadays, emo kind of just encompasses like alternative in general, but like back in the day, emo was like an insult, right? Like it was like people made fun of you, like, you know, go kill yourself, you're emo.
Exactly.
That was the thing.
Yeah. What are you doing, emo? Nice jeans, emo.
Yeah, do you wear your sister's jeans?
Yeah.
That was always the thing. And so but in a sense, when you look back at it, it was a little bit more mainstream than it might have felt. Because, like, My Chemical Romance was on the mainstream radio. My Chemical Romance had top hits, which would play on all of the mainstream radio stations. Yeah. So it's interesting looking back and how popular they are, maybe even versus some of, like, the preppy or, like, rap genre at the time. Like, they didn't really make it the way that MCR and Fall Out Boy did.
Right.
And that's another thing I was thinking of too, is like Machine Gun Kelly, right? Because like a lot of people love to hate him now, and I know he's not inherently like emo in a way, right? He talked about the emo girl thing, but like it's really interesting that people are kind of mixing him up with it. I was on Dolls Kill, like this website, the other day, and I saw this sweatshirt called Tickets to My Downfall, and it was supposed to be like an emo thing, like a scene fashion. And it was interesting to see that, but like I also think about how he's bringing together artists like The Used and Avril Lavigne, which, by the way, do you think Avril Lavigne is dead? Like, do you think that she's not Avril?
Well, slow down here. We just that's a lot to unpack before we get into conspiracy theories. Like, let's get into MGK for a second here, because I thought you were going to ask me if I thought Avril Lavigne was emo.
Well, do you think she's emo?
I think she's pop punk.
Sure. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
I think
and there's like they all like overlap though, but like, because that's the question, right? A lot of people don't like Machine Gun Kelly's music. I'm not the biggest fan myself. I don't hate it though. I don't think it's bad music, but people get really upset about it. I think because he's covering like old songs like Paramore and stuff like that just, I don't know, it just,
ooh, yeah,
it just doesn't hit the way it did back in the day.
So he really probably shouldn't be doing those covers, because I just don't think his voice was meant for it. And no shade, he's very talented. Some of his stuff is catchy, but I think like simplistically making a song that I'm in love with an emo girl plays over and over and over again sort of defeats the purpose of like emo music, which probably would have been like if I cut my throat in front of you, I'd apologize for bleeding, on your...
exactly, right.
That would be an emo line, not
right.
I'm in love with an emo.
No, exactly. Emos don't write love songs. Wear like a locket around your throat. Weigh you down, watch you choke. You look so good in blue.
Yes.
Like that's an emo love song. No, you're totally right.
That's romantic. That's like, okay. Like, I mean, I might be a little freaked out if somebody legitimately said that to me. I don't know, I guess, how I would feel about it. Yeah. But, in a way, it's romantic. It's poetic. And that's what emo music was. It was poetic. It was deep. It was a lot about the lyrics.
Right. Whereas I think musically speaking, he's a lot closer to pop punk style.
Yeah.
Right.
And he used to rap. He was like emo rap. And now he's definitely pretty pop punk. And he's with Megan Fox, which is
like good on you, man. Congratulations.
Yeah. It is sort of weird too, though, because I think another thing to say is back in the day, Megan Fox kind of had that like preppy target audience. Like she was like the beautiful like it girl. Like everybody wanted to be her. Right. She was a little different because she had darker hair where a lot of people were like blonde, but she definitely was an emo. But now looking back, people are grouping her in as like an emo girl. Because like, did you see the movies like Jennifer Body and stuff like that?
Yeah, people love Jennifer's Body in like the horror goth scene, right?
Yeah, it's on TikTok getting a lot of traction.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's an iconic movie.
Oh my god, I watched it the other day. It's so good.
Yeah, and I think it is. Anyways, I don't know much about Megan Fox, but I think that's true. It is interesting how it is all getting grouped together. That femme fatale kind of satanic, succubus type vibe. I get it. That's emo as fuck.
Right. So what they're doing is it's kind of like, I guess, should we talk about like the 80s where it's like we look back at the 80s, we call it 80s fashion, but 80s fashion had like a bunch of different things. We just think of it and group it all together. And so we are now old enough that when we're looking back on things, it's like 20 years ago, but we experienced it as a whole, and now it's just all grouped together. The preps, the emos, the goths, like all of it. It's just one.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to push back on that a little bit because I do think there's a 2000s nostalgia for like the bubblegum pop stuff that is totally different, right? Like the low-rise sweatpants, like the matching sweatshirts, like, belly button rings. Like that's a whole other thing that's come back to the late 90s, 2000s kind of look. But I think we were talking about this, and it was so interesting, just the younger generation getting into emo culture and old emo music or My Chemical Romance, and then looking back, and then, like you said, right? Like we did with the 80s. We would watch, I don't know, Ferris Bueller's Day Off and be like, oh, I guess that's what the 80s was. And then we would have an 80s party, and we would dress like we were in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And then to people who actually like went to high school in the 80s, it was nothing like that. It was just so much more different. I remember seeing a TikTok of like the one thing people get wrong about 80s nostalgia is just how brown everything was. And it's like a picture of like a brown McDonald's ashtray with a bunch of like brown plastic everywhere. Right?
That was a color that's very accurate. Even in like all of everything was brown. Like walls were brown, like everything. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's interesting to see that happen to the time when we were teenagers in a way. Because right, it's like now if you just watch Helena, the music video, and you're like, I guess that's what the mid 2000s were like. Everyone was emo. It was like dark, beautiful, Nightmare Before Christmas. Yeah, church.
They were all in churches all the time.
Yeah, everyone was in churches all the time and went to Catholic school.
It's funny how I do think that does bleed over a little bit, like the whole religion thing. And I think like there's so much religious stuff that bled into emo and alternative and screamo and everything like that you wouldn't even expect.
It is. And I mean, as someone who went to Catholic school for 14 years, Catholicism is pretty emo.
Yeah, right.
Like Catholic Jesus is really emo. It's like kill yourself to save everyone else. Like that's
very emo ex-core.
Yeah, right. So, and then but honestly, like a lot of people obviously had a lot of religious trauma, and then I think processing through that, it lended itself, like all of the imagery and the symbolism from Catholicism, it transfers so well to expressing these like big emotions, because that's kind of like if you went to Catholic school, that was the symbolic universe you lived in and where you learned to express those emotions to begin with. So like then take those huge feelings about the world and existence and then scream them into a microphone. Like that's what a lot of hardcore music was. And like, to your point, why so many of those bands were Christian hardcore bands, you know, like it was really common.
Yeah, and there's probably also another level to that. Like, you add that, and then like people felt a little bit repressed. What I've heard is like a lot of the reason was like, you know, if you said you were a Christian band, like you were allowed to go perform and go to concerts, or if like or you were able to go to a concert because it was a Christian band. Yeah. Meanwhile, it was under oath. You know what I mean? I think a lot of the early 2000s were us getting away from like religion running a lot of things, and we were also kind of getting away from like the trauma of 9/11. Like 9/11 was very fresh at this point, so we were all responding to that and nobody knew what was going on.
Totally. Yeah, it was a massive cultural event. It defined an entire generation because we all experienced it, at least in North America, but all over the world people watched it on the news. So yeah, it was a weird time, because right before 9/11, America was in, like, I know you're Canadian, and I don't know if it was like this in Canada, but like America was in such great shape. Like, everybody had good jobs, they could afford houses. Like, it was a really good time, like to the point of people were like super bored and like they didn't know what to do. And you saw that in music, you saw that like in TV shows and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden 9/11 happened, and it was such a trauma, which we can get to a little bit later on, where like that is literally what impacted My Chemical Romance. Yeah. But it was such a trauma that people had such a reaction, and there was just this like, you know, and then everything started going wrong, and it was just this weird reaction to the world. But emo was created at like the perfect time, a lot because of 9/11. I completely agree with you, right? The 90s really were idyllic in so many ways. Like, it was like that in Canada too. I had memories of just like biking around until the streetlights went off, you know, running through the sprinkler on your driveway with all your friends, and, you know, buying super soakers and Nerf guns.
Yeah.
And it all changed dramatically in the 2000s, and then followed by the economic crisis. Like, it makes sense that people were feeling pretty upset and looking for outlets to express that. But speaking of, I feel like we can go two ways now. We can talk about the 9/11 MCR pipeline, or we can talk about the Avril Lavigne conspiracy theory.
Okay, so before we forget about the Avril Lavigne conspiracy, let's go to that, and we'll totally get back over to the other one. So, like, do you know about this?
I've heard loosely of it, but I feel like you probably know so much about it. So just fill me in.
Okay, so Avril Lavigne is kind of like, she's back now. Like, she went through Lyme disease, all of this stuff. She's back. She's making music. Yeah, that's why she was gone for a very long period of time. But prior to that, back in the early 2000s, she was like the it girl. She came on stage. She was a kid. She had a skateboard, which she apparently didn't actually know how to skateboard, whatever. Oh, really? And apparently, like, this was on TikTok. She wore ties, and she was like, you know, he was a skater boy.
I loved Avril Lavigne. Like, she's Canadian. She's from like Huntsville.
I didn't know she was Canadian.
Yeah. Total Canadian treasure.
Okay, well, I'm learning things on this podcast. And so she was like this young girl, and she was really, really, really popular. And then all of the sudden, like, her content just changed. Like, she started to look different. Like, her face looked different. Like, she was like more bright blonde. Her voice sounded different. She started to look really different, and fans were like, what's going on? And then this like whole conspiracy theory came up, and like, I don't know that it's true. I don't know, but everybody talks about it. So allegedly she had like this like body double named Melissa, who looked pretty much exactly like her. And like, legend is told that she offed herself. Couldn't handle the fame of being Avril Lavigne. She was like a kid, and she offed herself, and like the media was like, we can't have this. So they just took her body double and they replaced her really fast. And people are saying like maybe that's why she can't skateboard now. Maybe she actually, the real, like, because she's Melissa now, maybe the other one could skateboard, but actual Melissa can't. And it is really weird, a lot of things coming out. And then, you know, right away going into that weird relationship with Chad from Nickelback.
Chad Kroger,
that was strange. And it just like, she definitely did the scene, like, she had the scene thing under her belt, don't get me wrong, but like, she went from like skater boy, and it just seemed like she just changed into a different person. Do I believe it? Probably not. She probably is Avril, and that probably never happened, but it's a widely known conspiracy theory.
Wow, that's fascinating. It reminds me of the conspiracy theory about fake Paul from the Beatles.
From the Beatles, that he died in a car crash.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's people who they analyze the album art and the lyrics of all the songs, and they're like, this proves that he's actually dead, and like this line, Paul was the walrus, and it's John like processing the trauma of seeing his body after getting hit by the car, and people just like
you play the record backwards and it says Paul is dead, which I think they did on purpose. And I think as soon as I think the thing is we all talk about these conspiracy theories, but they definitely caught on, and they probably knew and realized this is hysterical. Let's mess with them.
Maybe, right? You never know, because it must be so strange if you're just the real person, and then all of a sudden people are like, no, you're not really you, you
died
dead and someone replaced you. That would be so uncomfortable, right?
I would just go with it. I'd be like, no, you're right.
You're right, yeah. Or you just lean in and you're like, shh.
Yeah, don't tell me.
You just wink and walk away, and you're like, no one will believe you.
Yeah, you didn't see this. Although it was probably recorded and put on TikTok, so.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's 2022, so, that's how it goes.
Everything's on the internet.
But no, so that's weird. And it is really interesting, talking about all of that kind of stuff. And I mentioned a little bit how she changed from skater boy pop punk, I guess you could call it, to then just being kind of scene. And I guess when you're thinking about that, I always call it different levels of emo and stuff like that.
Like Pokemon evolutions?
It really is. It's okay, so all of a sudden the part got a little deeper, and the colors got brighter. It's and now the current evolution is e-girl, but they've gone through stages. So it was kind of weird. I guess skinny jeans now, they're going out of fashion. Middle parts are in, right?
Yeah.
Which I'm never getting. People made me do that, and I did it, and I shouldn't have. But, right, how hard was it to find skinny jeans back in the day?
Right, yeah, we were talking about this. So, in the 2000s, you would see all of these bands in music videos with these, tight jeans, and you're like, oh, they look so freaking cool. And you just couldn't buy them anywhere, at least in Canada, where I was. I know friends who had, found some in Montreal in this, special cool fashion shop, but, all the places you shopped as, a suburban kid, at the mall, whatever, even, we had this store called West 49, it was, a skater shop, that's where I actually bought my first pair of skinny jeans, but they had only, one, out of all the jeans styles, they had one kind of skinny jean, and that's it, and there was, 5 pairs. They were so hard to find.
They probably weren't comfortable.
They were really comfortable.
Oh, okay.
But they weren't actually that tight. They were skater skinny jeans.
So they were straight slims.
Yes, exactly. And so what my friends would do is they would go to Old Navy and buy ladies jeans, because in the 2000s Old Navy had such good ladies jeans. You could buy them in every color. So he bought these bright red pants, and he sewed the hips in so that they were tight and didn't have that. And after that, I was just obsessed. I wanted red skinny jeans so bad for years, and then I finally found some when I went to Montreal. But anyways, the point is, nowadays, you could get skinny jeans at any old place, Walmart probably.
It's the norm, except weirdly enough, they're bringing back flare jeans, which I don't really like that on me. But it is really interesting how hard it was. And you're saying that, and it made me think right away of, I got my first skinny jeans at Delia's. Delia's is a store. I don't know if they had it in Canada, but it was where I feel I got all my scene clothes from. And they closed down a few years ago, maybe 5, maybe 10 years ago. I don't know. But they were bought out by Dolls Kill way after the fact. They make old emo, I don't know, it's nostalgia clothes. Emo's kind of back.
Right.
Emo is making this resurgence, and people are realizing that, and they're capitalizing on it. So it is a big thing, and they have Delia's stuff and people who recognize that. But
I didn't know that. But you're so right? It's coming back, and all these big brands are realizing, millennials who were emo as teenagers now have money. And so I can see that being a lot of people trying to make money off of that. But that's so true. So one of the things we were talking about is, where did you buy emo clothes in the 2000s, right? So you had this store Dahlia,
Delia's.
Delia's.
DLI, and I think the A was capital. It was like funky text. I had
okay.
that, and then like it's also okay. Obviously Hot Topic, right? But it's also really important to note that like before Hot Topic, people were getting, and this is more probably going even like a little bit older than me, because Hot Topic was sort of available by the time I wanted it.
Yeah.
Like people would get all of their band tees at shows, and that was kind of the thing. So like when Hot Topic came out, people were really upset that it existed, because it was like any single person could go in and buy a band tee. That didn't even mean, okay, all right, you know those people that are like, oh, you're wearing an Iron Maiden shirt? Name top 5 songs by that. You know, and it's like, it was that. And that was emo gatekeeping. You know, the alternative gatekeeping has always been there.
Right. It's like, you're not a real fan. You're not legit.
Yeah.
It made sense. And like, yeah, Hot Topic was around because I think we're pretty close in age.
Yeah.
But I remember it being more like goth and punk style. So like we would go in there with our friends, and sometimes like our female friends would buy, you know, a couple of pieces, but there wasn't a lot for like that style, because we were looking for like skinny jeans, like a studded belt, and then like a tight band tee, and then a hoodie, and then Vans and some Converse. That was like male emo casual wear, I guess. It
was easy. You guys didn't have to do too much with it. Yeah.
No, right? And so we had this store, but you couldn't really find band tees like a bunch of places and studded belts and all that. So there was this like one store, I think it's still open downtown Ottawa. It's called Rock Junction, and it was like this biker rock store, and everyone in there was like super scary, and it had like old dusty carpets from the 70s, and they sold records, they sold piercings. I think you could get piercings there, like, but from this like big burly dude in the back, and then
my God.
From the ceiling was just like all the band tees hanging, and so we'd all buy our like Iron Maiden shirts there.
Speaking of Iron Maiden, right?
Yeah, exactly. And
that's what you got. And it's funny because nowadays you can buy Iron Maiden shirts at like Target. Like that's kind of like it's like the thing though. Like you can get these kind of shirts everywhere.
Right. I mean, it's interesting how it's changed, right?
Yeah, so much. And you know what else is really weird? How like Abercrombie and Fitch and like Aeropostale and like all those places, people don't realize it, but like Scene and Emo Kids legit shopped there.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't get black, and we wanted to wear black, but we couldn't, so we would get like navy blue. Yeah. Like because the sweatshirts, like you'd see Pete Wentz in like the white sweatshirt or something like that. Like, yeah, it is funny that people do think of that as a really preppy store, and which was. Did you see the documentary on that, by the way?
On Abercrombie and Fitch?
Yeah.
Oh, did I watch it? I think
it just came out recently.
I saw it on Netflix. But I didn't watch the whole thing. I saw the trailer.
They pretty much prove on it that like, so the whole premise of it is that they didn't want ugly people shopping there. And this was like always around. Like the CEO said that, like he doesn't want fat people and ugly people shopping there.
Wow.
But like they really didn't even want anybody working there that wasn't like their image.
And
yeah.
That's illegal, isn't it?
Oh, it was. Yeah. He's not the CEO anymore. And the guy had like ties to Jeffrey Epstein. So it's a lot deeper. Like there's a lot to it. It's like, yeah, but
wow.
It was interesting, but they pretty much ran, like malls were like the place to be as a kid, and they like ran the mall. Like you walked past it, you would smell that cologne.
Oh, I remember that because like the cool kids at school were all like just straight preppies, and they would all wear those clothes, and it was like a status thing. You're like, oh, you look so cool in Abercrombie and Fitch. And so even though we were the emo kids and we had our own like little tiny clique, we would like, you'd still want to be like the cool kids, so you'd buy the clothes that they wore and stuff like that to try and fit in, you know, like at least that's how it was in my high school, I think.
Yes, you still wanted to fit in.
Yeah,
there was definitely a layer to it, like you wanted to stand out but you wanted to fit in, and there was layer 2 wanting to stand out as in like you wanted to fit in with the people that stood out, if that makes sense.
Yeah, right, like you wanted to be one of the freaks, you know, together, and then scare the normies. So, you know, you dye your hair and straighten it or whatever. Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of, like, we're talking about, like, emo and, like, I guess the culture and how nowadays it's having a resurgence. I thought maybe we should watch a couple of TikToks of people who are, like, trying to do it now, and we can kind of talk about them.
I'm excited for this because I think people nowadays make it look so much better than it did.
Yes.
Right? They're like doing it so much better than we ever did.
They do such a good job now because they have the availability to get these clothes. They don't know what we looked like.
Yeah.
Our makeup was not good. Our hair was like probably always curly in the back. Okay, so the first person I'm going to show is Luna Ghostis. I've had her on a podcast in the past. She's amazing.
Cool.
She definitely lived through the whole thing, and she still does it. So let me pull this up. Okay, So, this is her. So I like that she does the side part a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's very emo. It's very scene. Like, I think she does a great job. It definitely, like, with the eyes and everything, takes the modern day influences.
It's interesting to see, like, the blending of goth and emo, too, in a lot of the modern styles. Whereas I think they were more separate for us.
They were entirely different entities. And I think you're right, because Luna kind of did mix that goth thing with it. I'm about to play this, but I don't know who this is, but I think this person, it's really interesting because it does kind of show, like, what people look back and think scene looked like.
Yep.
Because I've seen pictures where people wear, like, an identical outfit. We did not have access to this kind of thing. So let me play it. Oh. The TikTok dance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's funny because, yeah, all these plaid skirts are super in, right, with the scene look. And to be fair, I went to Catholic school with a uniform, and all the girls did have, like, plaid skirts, but they were their uniform skirts. And then there was, like, usually some, like, blouse or things or sweater you had to wear on top. And so all the girls would wear, like, band tees underneath that stuff. And whenever the teachers weren't looking, they'd take off the uniform top, and they would look like that with, like, the plaid skirt and then a band tee. But it wasn't deliberate, right? It was like you just wearing your uniform and then a band tee that you like.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes, I know exactly what you mean. And this is another great example of, like, okay, so all of these things that she has on her, you just would not be able to get back then.
Yeah.
Like, you see a lot of people wearing the chains and stuff like that. You could not get the chains back in the day. Nobody really wore the chains. And the belt is definitely, like, I mean, I see that belt on, like, Shein and stuff like that. Like, that's like a modern belt. We wore the studded ones.
Yeah.
Although I think this is a great representation, I really do. We weren't able to look how we wanted to look.
Yeah, she looks so awesome. Like,
she looks so awesome.
The fishnet hand warmer on the other hand, and, like, the other hand warmer here, like, that's so cool.
Yeah, we just didn't have things like that.
Yeah,
but
it was so hard to find it, right? Like, think about this, like, friggin' Amazon didn't exist. You couldn't just search stuff on the internet except for maybe eBay. And then most people, like, in the 2000s, a lot of people just didn't trust online shopping the same way we do now, right?
Okay, we are back. The lighting's going to look a little different because I was playing around with my camera settings and I changed things, but we're just going to keep going with it. So, now that we talked about some of that, that was pretty cool. Another thing I think we should bring up is something, and I don't even know how much of an opinion you have on this, but fanfictions. So fanfictions were a really big thing, and people who don't know about fanfictions, it's as it sounds. It is a story about, like, a band or something you're a fan of. So, like, Gerard Way has a ton. I wonder if there are Trevor Dealey ones out there. There probably are now.
I hope not. Probably not.
But there were some really weird ones out there, like My Immortal, which is very iconic. It mixes My Chemical Romance with goth. Well, yes, and Hogwarts. And I just recommend you checking that out because that one was really crazy and there's so many conspiracy theories on that. Nobody knows who wrote it.
Yeah, you showed me that one.
Oh my god. Yeah, that one's great. There's the milk fic, which I don't really want to talk about much, but if you know, you know. And Brendan has addressed this and he's seen it, which is horrifying. You have Wincest, which is like the Way brothers, which I just think is so inappropriate, but, like, it exists. Like, if you can think it, there's fan fiction of it. So I think that's an interesting thing, and it's common. And so now that we have talked about fan fiction, maybe we should talk about the Gerard Way seeing 9/11 to 50 Shades of Grey after pipeline.
Hang on. You just wanted to, like, mention fanfic and then move along? Or is it like you started talking about fanfics and then realized, like, you started feeling gross and didn't want to talk about it anymore?
I mean, do you have commentary? Do you want to talk about fanfiction?
I feel like there's a lot to unpack with fanfiction. Like,
okay.
Why do people write it? Like, why?
It's like, okay. I think so. There's, like, some gross things.
Hang on. Have you ever written a fanfic, Jess?
Oh yeah. Oh my god.
So okay, this is good. We can use you as, like, a case to try to understand why this happens. Why did you write your fanfic? Are you willing to tell us what it was about?
Yeah. No. Like, growing up, like, it started with the Green Day fanfiction, you know, like, I had this really, really cringe fanfiction that I wrote. Oh my God. So I had gone. So, all right. So let's talk about the reason as to why I did. I remember I was 11. I was writing this fan fiction. I had gone into Hot Topic.
You were 11?
Oh my God. Yes. And it's like just as bad as you would expect because an 11-year-old wrote it. So like I went into Hot Topic one day, like this actually happened, and I bought a nail polish, and I was like looking at it, and this nail polish had like a skull on it, and it was the Hot Topic brand, and I was like, oh my God, I got this inspiration. So I wrote this fan fiction about this girl who goes with Billie Joe Armstrong to the mall, and she puts on nail polish. What she didn't realize was that the nail polish was it said like in fine print vampire on. So like if you put it on your hands, you turn into a vampire. So she puts it on, and she starts to not feel good, and then like the sun starts burning, and then like she finds out she's a vampire, and then it like abruptly ends. And I don't think I ever got any more inspiration for that one, but like
okay, but that's actually a really cool premise. That's original.
No, it's really bad. Like that's not a good
vampire nail polish. I don't think that's been done before, so.
And I don't think it ever should. And like I hope I didn't give anybody any ideas, because like it's been done, it's terrible. And it was just like, it was really cringy stuff like that. And I guess the idea is that like maybe I saw, like I think I found fan fiction from like Neopets. Did you go on Neopets?
Oh, I was on Neopets, but what do I want to know? What's Neopets?
No, it wasn't like Neopets fan fiction. It was like I was on Neopets, and I was like all the Green Day forums on Neopets.
Oh my
God. And then like people would like link like in the forums, like legit emo forums, people would like link to their fanfics on Quizilla. Did you ever go on Quizilla?
No, I didn't even know fanfics really were a thing until like after it was all over.
Okay, well, I was real into it, and it's not over. People are super into it, but like, okay, so the idea is like if you like writing, like I used to really like writing, and I still like writing, not really fanfics anymore, but like it's like if you like writing, you already have characters that are created. So you don't have to design a character. They're already created. You already know what they look like. You can already describe them. They already have like characteristics and stuff like that. And I think in a way that's why a lot of fan fiction was written. I think there's another premise of like you're a really big fan and you just want to read a story about your relationship with Billie Joe Armstrong. I think that makes sense.
Right. So like in your fanfic, why were you going to the mall with him?
Well, I was 11, and so I thought that's what the cool kids did.
Right. So you two were like on a date to the mall.
Yeah, like it like starts off me like asking, like this is legit in the fanfiction. It starts off me asking my mom if I can go to the mall with a really hot blue-haired guy, because I guess my inspiration was when he had blue hair when he was younger.
Right.
And then like we go to the mall together, and like I guess I buy nail polish. Now like logistically, would I have done this with somebody when I was 11? Yeah, maybe. Would I put the nail polish on in the car on the ride home? Probably not. That's a little weird, but I did it.
That's a little unrealistic detail of your story.
Yeah.
That you wouldn't have put the nail polish on in the car.
Oh, no. There was no, I mean, like, I think a lot of this was not realistic. And I think back to, because I had a couple others that were, like, they were really, really bad. And, like, there was one story I had where, like, midway through, like, this one I'm thinking of, I don't remember the main premise, but it had multiple chapters. I started realizing that something was going wrong. So, I made the main character die, but then she woke up and realized nothing had happened and she was just dreaming. Terrible plot line, but you see that a lot in fan fiction.
So I like your theory though, right? It's kind of like writing with the training wheels on. You have characters that you know and care about already, so you don't have to like make them on your own. Yeah. And so I could, young people trying to learn how to write, I guess that kind of makes sense, right? You're like learning the skills, and of course a lot of it's going to be bad because people are learning how to write. Maybe just don't make people who are related to one another have sex with each other in them. No, that's really weird. I think that you just can't. I don't know what goes on there. I mean, I think like I get it if you like both of them. Like you think like I think both Mikey and Gerard like wow like they're the Way brothers, but like the idea of like putting them like in a relationship with each other is kind of scary. Like I never clicked on it. Yeah. It's been around for a long time. Wow. And so I get that, right? There's like a spectrum of there's probably harmless, fanfics about buying vampire nail polish. And then there's people who, whatever they were writing, it probably wasn't going to be maybe there's something wrong with the person writing something like that,
Yeah, there's definitely something going on. And like, they get to hide behind like a username. Like you just like write it and post it. And like there's a want for it. Like I want to clarify that. Like people want it. People read it. It's a common fan fiction like subtype. So people actually want that. And there's another level too when we're talking My Chemical Romance where like they made themselves publicly like they wanted people to think that they were LGBT. They weren't necessarily, but I think they made that part of their thing. And it was like a good thing because they were trying to get people to feel more comfortable with it. That was a big thing of like the emo scene culture too, is like, guys making out with guys and stuff like that. And like, it was kind of joked about, but I think this was like a very big mainstream way to kind of come out. And then you see like Gerard Way making out with like Burt McCracken and like, that they would pretend to be dating and stuff like that, which apparently, allegedly they weren't dating. And, you see this Pete Wentz and Mikey Way, like everybody wishes they dated, but I don't think they actually did date, but they think they were playing along with it because they knew that people wanted them to.
Right.
And I think they knew that there was like a category of it where like they knew that what they were doing was sort of making people come out. So there's a little bit more than just like messing with fans, which I think was part of it, but then people like that and they write about it.
It's true, right? And if you think about it, like at the era, when we were teenagers, like gay marriage was or same-sex marriage was just becoming legalized for the first time.
That's an interesting point to bring up. Yeah. When did it become legal in Canada?
I think 2003? No, that's not right. I should know this.
That is a really interesting point because it's 2015 in America.
What?
Yeah.
What?
June 26, 2015, the U.S. Supreme Court struck down all state bans on same-sex marriage, legalized it in all 50 states, and required states to honor out-of-state same marriage licenses. So I remember the first time civil unions became a thing, because you couldn't even do those back in the day. So wow, that is crazy when you think about that. Not even 10 years out of that.
Yeah, that's nuts. I didn't realize it took you guys so long.
I don't know what is wrong with America. But that's just the way it is.
Yeah,
but
that's a whole other podcast.
I mean, right, I know. But I'm glad you didn't skip over that fan fiction part, because you're right. There probably is a lot to be said and unpacked with that, and I think it's actually like a really big part. I think you can also compare it to cosplaying. Like, why would somebody cosplay somebody else? Like,
I don't know, man. It's totally messed up. Whoever does that.
I know. Like, why would you want to be somebody else?
Why
like,
would
strange.
you want to be someone else? No, it's a good question. I mean, for me, I didn't want to be a graduate student anymore, and pretending to be Gerard Way was way more fun than writing machine learning models. And so, yeah, it was escapism. It's fantasy a little bit. You're like, oh, I get to return to the mid-2000s and embody someone I really admired. And it's like, I've thought about it as like a form of fan art, like a way of paying homage to the band.
Yeah.
At least that's the story I tell myself.
No. And I think all of that can be said about fan fiction. It is definitely an homage to the band in that way. And I also think it is like escapism, 100%.
Right.
Yeah.
I think you make a great point then. Yeah. No, you're totally right. All
these people who like love My Chemical Romance and want to be in a relationship with like Mikey Way, they can be on paper.
Right. In their story.
In their stories, and other people can read it and they can experience that too. So it is weird, but the cosplaying thing is interesting. That's been around for a while, but like on TikTok, I think it's like super, like it's so easy to just dress up as somebody. It's like Halloween every day.
It is. Yes, exactly. That's such a wholesome way to put it.
Yeah, everybody loves Halloween.
Everyone loves Halloween. It's true.
So, yeah. No, I agree with that. There's like a weird overlap too with Halloween and like emo. They definitely always went together. Yeah. I don't know why, but they just did.
It's like emo Christmas, and I think it's because of The Nightmare Before Christmas.
I think you're right. Emo Christmas.
Right? And so much of 2000s emo, I feel like, was informed by like a lot of Tim Burton's movies and aesthetics. I mean, same with, because My Chemical Romance was super informed by Tim Burton's aesthetics, right?
Oh my God, yeah. And what about Blink-182's song, like, we'll have Halloween on Christmas, you know, like that?
We live like Jack and Sally, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey. Yeah, that's interesting. And I wonder if like Halloween had a big impact on people prior to that. I think maybe goth. I think goth has always been that.
Yeah, goth and horror fans.
Yeah.
But Halloween, can we talk about Halloween in the 90s for a second?
Oh, please. Yeah.
I think that was probably the best time for Halloween in North America in human history was the 90s. It's like you didn't have cell phones. But you had TV and cartoons, you know, wealth inequality wasn't as bad as it is now. So a lot of people participated, you know, candy was cheap. It was just great. Like you'd go out in like a gang of kids.
I know.
All dressed up and you'd be out till like 9:30, 10 o'clock. And
I know.
And you were like in it, right? Like now you have your phone and you have social media and you're always like, oh, maybe someone's Halloween is better than mine. There was none of that because you were in a gang of kids and you're like, you're in our gang and it's like, the night is ours. Like,
give us your candy.
Yeah, let's go.
And like, I feel like now everybody wears, like every year, everybody wears the same costumes because they see it on social media. It's like you said, back in the day, it was like whatever your mom probably sewed for you or you could get at the local, like not even Spirit Halloween, like whatever else they had near you. Like, yeah I think things are so like one unit now. Like everything is similar now, but back in the 90s it was like you couldn't compare yourself to others. You just did you.
You did you, right? Because you're like, I'm gonna be Frankenstein this year, just because. And then mom's like, why? And it's like, I just want to be Frankenstein, right? And nowadays you're so right, it's all about like what costumes are trending or what cosplay, you know, like Velma or Raven, you know, like there's a lot of costumes that just become popular.
Suicide Squad came out, Harley Quinn. Everybody was Harley Quinn.
Everyone was Harley Quinn, yeah.
Yeah, it's so weird. There's that one year where everybody was Tom Cruise in that movie where he like wears a white shirt and like slides.
Oh, Jerry Maguire.
Yeah, but like why did that like you know, that wasn't like a new movie. It was just because people saw other people do it online.
Right, it came back into the zeitgeist.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I also want to say, talking about Halloween, like I was really weird as like a kid, and I don't know why, but I remember, and I think this is also a peak scene year, but the year that Michael Jackson died, I can't even explain this to you. Like that was like a scene year. Like what year was that? I don't even know.
Let me check.
Yeah, I'm curious.
This is interesting.
So it was a weird year because like Michael Jackson died, like that guy who did like the slap thing, right? Was it him?
June 25th, 2009.
2009 was a very prime year for all this stuff. MySpace was kind of in its prime and about to end, but we didn't know it yet. And South Park was releasing episodes on it. And like, I don't know why, like we were all wearing the shirts of Kanye West that said like, I like fish sticks. And then like, I remember that Halloween, like me and my friends went to like a local cemetery, like in our costumes, and we tried to summon the ghost of Michael Jackson. And like, I don't know, we were all joking and like people were in the background like, and I was like, it was like a weird year, but I feel like that was just like something you did back then, like RAR XD was so random.
Wait, are you saying that like going to a cemetery with your friends on Halloween and trying to summon the ghost of Michael Jackson the year he died was just something emo kids were doing back then?
I can't explain it, but like I feel like it had those vibes.
I'm gonna say you have a wonderful imagination. I think you might have been the only people doing.
Yeah, this is a cemetery from like the 1600s. Like it was like the old meeting house. Like Michael Jackson wasn't there. You know what I mean?
Like why would he be at that cemetery? You know, I'm sure he's like just as busy in the afterlife as he was in this life, Jess.
You know, and it was something that happened and we got no reaction from it. And nothing happened, but it was something we did and it just seemed so raw XD, so random. And it was like something I could post as my MySpace status.
Yeah. Well, no, but I think that's so true. 2009, I would say that was my peak emo year. That was the year I graduated high school. Oh,
you're older than me.
Yeah, I think so. A little bit.
Yeah. I graduated 2012, which was a peak year for scene. I gotta tell you.
Yeah, see, after high school, I got into the outdoors. It's this thing like outside of buildings where the sun is involved.
What's that?
Yeah,
I don't know. I have
don't
this
worry
weird
about
nail
it. Don't
polish.
worry.
I can't go out there, so you know.
Don't worry about it. Yeah, you wouldn't like it. So like I like cut off all my hair and then started being like an outdoorsy person for a while. So 2009 was kind of like my last year, and that's when things started to get more like hipster anyways, like
Yes.
scene hipster kind of thing. So I do feel that. I think 2009 was like the last year of that, the last year of what I call like Black Parade emo.
Yeah, well, because that came out in 2006, which is kind of hard to believe. But I remember that dropped, and then it was like
2006 or 2007?
It came out in 2006. I am positive about this because I got the emails as it came out, and I recently went through my emails and I found the emails telling me it was about to drop.
No way. Yeah, you're totally right. October.
I have all of the emails. I got to make a video about this. It's really interesting. Like as they went from like 3 Cheers to Black Parade, like I was on the mailing list.
Cool.
Yeah, it's. I think that's history. They switched websites like 5 times in the middle of it.
Wow.
But so like, what year did they drop Danger Days?
That was 2010, I think. 2010,
and then 2012 or 13 they dropped Conventional Weapon.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess that makes sense then, right? Is our idea of My Chemical Romance and their association with emo was still Black Parade in 2009 because Danger Days hadn't hit yet.
Yeah. Oh my God, yeah. And then things changed.
Because they were such a big influence on the scene, right? So for them to like go cyberpunk, I think everything started changing.
And then they broke up, and around that same time Fall Out Boy had just broken up.
Yeah.
Oh man, when did they break up? I want to say they broke up in 2008 or something.
Really? No,
I don't know. They broke up for a few years and got back together. I don't remember. I could be very wrong about it, but I know that I remember it was like a thing. I think they got back together in 2012. I could be so wrong about these years.
Because I remember they were still releasing music after I graduated. No. You're right. They broke up in 2009.
Okay.
Hiatus from 2009 to 2013.
Oh my God. See, yes. I knew, because I'm thinking about it, like when I first posted about it on MySpace, finding out about it, MySpace had changed significantly. And then after the fact, when they got back together, and I was in college.
Yeah, that's so wild. So in so many ways, 2009 was the last year Fall Out Boy was together, and it was the year before Danger Days came out.
Yeah, and unfortunately, like a lot of the other bands were still posting, but they just didn't have that notoriety. Like The Used kind of flopped off. They were good, and they continued to post good music, but they weren't as popular. Panic at the Disco kept doing their thing. I don't know. That was a weird era, and they took control of that era, and they changed it.
Right. They went more pop.
Yeah, they did. And then, you have 21 Pilots, which I never really liked.
I think great musicians, right? Good music, but not my thing. Okay, and now here's Jess with your emo history fun fact.
Are you calling on me because I'm the Emo Chronicles? All right, so ready for this? So Gerard Way, I mean, this is a known fact, but I'm just going to put it out there. Gerard Way saw 9/11. Like, he was physically there. Like, he was about to get on the train back. He was working as like he did comic books, sort of, which makes sense now with Umbrella Academy, whatever. So he saw 9/11 happen. He literally physically witnessed it. And because of that, he said, you know what, I'm going to quit doing this, and I'm going to go and create a band. And he created My Chemical Romance, which we love. And immediately after that, some girl, she's writing a fan fiction, and it's called Twilight. And she published it, and it wasn't really a fan fiction anymore, but her main character idea was Gerard Way. When she was writing it, she envisioned Gerard Way. Are you confused? Did you not know this?
No, I was going to ask you. I was like, because that's so creepy. So Edward was Stephanie Meyer. That's who it is, right? Stephanie Meyer?
Stephanie Meyers, yeah.
It was her like fantasized version of Gerard Way?
So, yes.
What?
Yeah, so she actually had written the book, and when she was making the movie, they reached out to Gerard, and they said, will you be Edward? And Gerard was like, no. And then a couple years later, he releases the song Vampire Money, where he kind of talks about that. Right. He's like, I don't want your vampire money. Because, like, everybody was trying to convince him to do it because he knew it was going to make him a ton of money. But he didn't want to do it because he thought it would make him a sellout, and he was really, like Twilight was sort of sellout-y at the time. And it probably would. Could you imagine if Gerard was in the movie?
I think it might have been good, but
I
I don't know.
It would have ruined My Chemical Romance because they would
Yes.
completely lose their credibility. And that was a big thing about them is they kept their credibility. So
That's true. And I remember he had like a lot of hilarious tweets about it. Like he was like, can we just remember that Edward's like 1,000 years old dating a 17-year-old?
the whole thing is real creepy.
Yeah.
And that CGI baby at the end.
I never watched the later movies.
I watched all the movies last year. So I got Twilight for the first time.
Wow.
And it's not good when you watch it at this age. I'm just going to say it. But anyways, going back to this. So Twilight's created, it's a big thing. And then somebody reads Twilight and they're inspired to write 50 Shades of Grey, which is a spicy movie. It was a fan fiction, but
Wait.
they like...
So Christian Grey is like a 2
Edward.
times copy of Gerard Way?
Yes. So...
Dude, do people know this?
Yes, and like a little bit. I don't know if it's super well known, but like what it could have been is like you could be reading 50 Shades of Grey and picturing Gerard Way, and that might be the correct visual. But I don't know because the visual for this could have actually been Edward Cullen as Robert, whatever that guy is that played it.
Robert
So-
Pattinson?
Robert Patterson.
Is it Patterson?
Pattinson, whatever it is, him.
Yeah, Pattinson.
She could have been picturing him, but the playoff is that she would have never pictured him had Gerard Way not been that. So 50 Shades of Grey is that, and then we're gonna take it a step more. After 50 Shades of Grey, the book came out, the movies came out, it did real good. You have this new series all over Netflix. It's called After. After was inspired by 50 Shades of Grey.
Wow.
Which was inspired by Twilight, which was inspired by My Chemical Romance, which was inspired by 9/11. And After was specifically supposed to be a fan fiction on Harry Styles, which makes it a little weird because it intertwines, but it was inspired by 50 Shades of Grey. So you have the 9/11 to After pipeline.
Wow.
Yeah. That's my emo fun fact.
So I knew about the pipeline, but the thing that really blows my mind is that, because I've read the Twilight books, is that she was picturing Gerard Way as when she was writing Edward.
Yeah, I could see it.
You think he's like that?
No, I don't, but I think I could see why she would do that.
But why would she think he was like that?
I'm just saying she should have gotten you. She should have gotten you because you were like a paste and copy, and so you would have had the visual. You could have been Edward.
I would have done it. I'll do anything.
Yeah, I mean honestly, yeah, I don't blame you. That's a lot of money.
Oh my god, and it's so much better than being a graduate student.
Are we gonna get an Edward Cullen cosplay?
No, absolutely not. There's a guy who does that, and I don't know. It's too far for me.
Oh, could you imagine though? It's but it's the vision of what it was originally supposed to look like.
See, that was what I was originally doing in the TikToks, which is how we met, when you told me about how Gerard Way really didn't like Twilight and he was approached for the movie.
Yes.
That's what I was originally doing because people were asking for that, and I thought it was hilarious, but I didn't know how deep it went.
Yeah, so you gave the correct visual.
Oh boy.
So, on that note, that's the emo fun fact.
So fun.
Roaring 20s current emo affairs.
I like it.
Yeah.
So, current affairs people are saying middle parts are in and side parts are out. But how can that be if emo is also coming back?
It's weird. When I first got onto TikTok, everybody said, do the middle part. And then, now nobody's saying it to me anymore. People are asking me for tutorials on how to do my side part.
Wow. Look at that, right? Maybe that was just big middle part money, feeding propaganda to the TikTok algorithm. They're like, we need to sell brushes, I guess. Big brush.
Yeah. Yes.
How do middle...
Honestly, what's that big one that everybody has? The Dyson?
Yeah.
I mean, this is a $500 plus device. So maybe Dyson was working with influencers to sell middle parts.
See, that now I think we're onto something.
I think we're onto something.
The Dyson middle part pipeline.
I think that actually was a thing. So then they realized they were doing good anyways, and it could also be utilized on side parts. And here we are. I think it is. I think when I first started doing TikToks, the resurgence wasn't in full bloom, and I think it's really like it's in now.
Yeah. It really seems like it's come back. Because I remember I started watching Emo's Not Dead, Matt Cutshall videos, like maybe a year or two ago.
Yeah.
Like right when he first started them, and I was like, this is so awesome. Like, I loved it. It was so funny. It was so nostalgic. And then, like, that was the first thing I noticed maybe 2 years ago. And then ever since then, it just seems to be, like, becoming more and more popular.
So you think Matt is solely to blame about the resurgence? I think TikTok had a lot to do with it.
Yeah, I think there was, like, a nostalgia for My Chemical Romance that was always there, and younger generations were, like, turning onto it. I think Matt Cutshall was probably ahead of the curve and just kind of, like, I don't know, like... But I think, he played a huge part in it, right? Like, getting people to remember all those old bands, when he's doing those, like, awesome collabs with, like, Simple Plan or people like that.
I was going to say that, the collabs.
Yeah, so,
seriously.
Like, I mean, I want to give him credit, but, I mean, of course, there's many, many factors, but I think he's been a huge part of it, honestly. I would say that. I would say he has.
He started doing it, like, 2017 or something like that, so it's been many years. Yeah, so he brought it back, like, right when it had died.
Wow.
Yeah. I know. You saw, it's probably more than 2 years ago that you saw it for the first time. A pandemic has changed time.
I know.
Honestly, because I saw it on Facebook, it was going, but it is really interesting. So middle part's gone, middle part's in, side part's gone. Skinny jeans used to be hard. You can find them now, but they're really not in, but they sort of are always probably going to be in. Leggings were not a thing back in the day, and now everybody just wears leggings. It's like common everyday stuff.
Yeah.
You could not wear leggings to school as like a girl. Like you were not like, it was like illegal. You couldn't do it. You'd be sent home.
Yeah.
And now wide leg is sort of in. You're seeing like high rise was a big thing for a while, and now it's going down for girls. But I hope it doesn't, because that doesn't really work with my body. I also feel like we are looking at a very different era, because like back in the day, you had like, this is going to sound bad, but it was called like heroin chic. Like you weren't like, people didn't eat, and like you had to be like 90 pounds. And that's what you saw in the magazines. And nowadays people are like, that's not how everybody looks. And so now you're actually seeing models that look like human beings.
Thank God. I mean, that's just so dangerous.
Yes.
I mean, they were like calling it heroin chic to people's faces. Like it wasn't even like a joke. Right?
It wasn't. Like, that's legit what it was.
That's so messed up, right?
It was like, so bad.
You know people who like are almost on the verge of death because they're addicted to a drug that wastes away at their body and flesh? That's how we want you to look. That's beauty. That's so messed up.
Oh my God. And then all of the people that were like marketed us as like fat, like all the celebrities and stuff like that, if you look back at them, they were legit skinny, but they just weren't 90 pounds. They were maybe like 101 pounds.
Wow. It's
really crazy. There's a girl on TikTok who actually does that. She goes and like shows like the fat kid in like all like these different movies, and it's like that person's literally skinny. Social media is creating awareness. TikTok is showing real people doing real things in their real everyday life, and it's not manufactured. It's not how people want them to look. It's how they want to look, and it's showing people what they look like.
I like that. I'd never thought about it that way, but yeah, I think you're so right. You want to end with Was It a Phase segment?
Of course I want to end with Was It a Phase segment.
So for new listeners, this was something from Jess's TikToks.
I show before and afters of what people looked like back in the day when they were emo and what they look like now. And I determine, was it a phase or was it not a phase? So I had real people send me in images of what they used to look like, and I was doing TikToks about it, but I thought we would do one where we both do it together. So this is an image that somebody sent me of what they looked like before. This reeks of Tumblr. I love it so much. The purple hair, just everything. I think that is a little piercing. The makeup style.
Yeah. I have to say, for maybe the late 2000s or 2010s to have hair this well dyed, like that's,
right.
That's seriously an accomplishment.
I would say so, 100%. So this is what they look like now.
Wow, that's awesome.
I'm beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. So do you think it was a phase?
I'm gonna say no, because I'm getting like, more refined Morticia emo vibes now, and you can see like the cool floral sleeve, and that's kind of very alternative. It's like, it looks like a more mature emo to me.
Yeah, I don't think it was a phase.
No, absolutely not.
This is them back in the day. I'm going to make it bigger. This picture gives me Fur Chest Sister vibes. I don't know if you know who that is, but it's just so emo.
Yeah.
That haircut is everything.
Yeah, the cut is like perfect.
Do you think it was a phase?
Oh, this one's tough. What do you think?
So I see the little tiny pieces of like, it probably wasn't a phase, but on the outskirts, I'm going to say it was a phase.
It's yeah, because right there's, you see the little gauge. The hair is amazing. The style is so cool.
Gorgeous.
It looks like the side shave, right? That was very alternative.
It's sort of like almost like a mohawk, like a little bit.
Yeah, like
which is punky
vibes, right?
Yes,
but also a little bit of, you know, there's like kind of like that fairy, like cottage core, like, you know, magical creature in the woods kind of aesthetic on TikTok.
That is what I'm getting, like almost cottage core.
Yeah, like, and that really nice highlight on the inside of the eye.
I love it. And the nose, beautiful. Even all of the highlight, the makeup is so pretty. Yeah. And then all of the freckles and everything like that. But yeah, I'm definitely going to say, I think it was a phase, but I can tell that it likely was not a phase on the inside. This next one is, I think, my favorite one that I'm going to show so far. Let's see if I can get a little bit smaller.
That's iconic. That's like, so good.
Look at this image. Like, first off, the hat. Second off, it says snowy with a heart at the bottom. Okay. We're going to like zoom in. You can just see like the Hello Kitty pillowcase. Like everything about this is just so aesthetic.
I love it. And the bleach streaks in the front of the hair.
Yes.
So good.
So good.
Wow.
So you're going to actually die when you see what this person looks like now, because they're still obsessed with Hello Kitty. It's like, it's amazing. It's just grown up as to what they were. It's so good. Yeah. Definitely not a phase. Definitely
this looks like a Pokemon evolution of the previous picture.
This really is.
Yeah,
it's
wow.
So
it's so nice. The pink streaks, Hello Kitty necklace. Is that it looks like there's a Hello Kitty seatbelt cover in the background.
Oh my, and then and the shirt has the Hello Kitty print, and then all of it. Definitely not a phase. Yeah. I love that. If you guys want to continue sending them in, you could send them to either me or Trevor's Instagram, which I will put on here. You can send us, and make sure you send us what you looked like before and what you looked like after, and we're going to try to get your pictures in. And I love looking at these, so keep sending them to me. Even if I don't open them right away, just keep sending them. They're amazing.
Well, thanks so much for listening.
This has been Thanks for the Memories,
the podcast where we talk about emo and scene memories. I'm Trevor.
And I'm Jess. And you can find us on TikTok and Instagram. I'm going to put here a link to all of our socials.
And let us know in the comments what you want us to talk about next.
Please. It has been fun, and stay emo.
Where we talk about emo and scene stuff.
Fucking obliterate that like button. Like and subscribe.
Smash the like button.
Smash the like button
On TikTok.
Yeah.